This is Fatima. I'm the data analyst at the Data City. And first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting us to be part of this event. And we're here to talk about the original data set that we have created that basically represents the net zero economy in the UK. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen with you now. Hopefully everybody can see that. Yep. So, well, we think that it is very relevant to understand this economy as far as these are the companies, these are the industries that are enabling a carbon neutral future for like the UK. I want to start by presenting the contents of this presentation. First of all, we introduce the Net Zero Arctic. This is the data set. We talk about its segments, its purpose, and the method we use to create it. Then we present few insights. These are findings that we have extracted from the data. And lastly, we will talk a little bit about the impact of these kind of data sets may have or wider conversations. So let's get on to it. Before anything, first of all, it's important that I explain what Arctic means. Basically, Arctic stands for Real-Time Industrial Classification, and this is a proprietary method by the Data City, where we use machine learning to identify and classify industrial sectors with regards to language patterns in website text. We will talk about this a little bit more later on. But yeah, basically our net zero Arctic captures the companies contributing towards a carbon neutral future. And as you would understand, there's lots of many companies that are contributing towards a carbon neutral future across many different industries. This is why we identified the 15 crucial industry verticals critical to accomplish the environmental targets defined by the government. And so this data set aggregates companies in the field of agritech, of building technologies. These are smart homes or IoT applications to regulate energy management in a building, for example, to other more traditional net zero sectors as the one on renewable energies or waste management. So this is the originality of this data set, that it is able to pull all these companies together and present them as a market. It is relevant because at the end of the day, it allows us to quantify the size, the value, and the geography of the sector of the UK and share these headlines as the one that you have on the screen at the moment, which is that the net zero companies grew by 209% from 2012 to 2021, which basically means that the net zero economy right now is 4 times the size it was in 2012. And how did we do this? Well, we did it using a machine learning algorithm that looks for patterns in website text. Basically, what this algorithm does is it analyzes the text of companies' websites and it finds patterns in language and recurrent keywords. Then it groups together the companies that have similar patterns in language on their website text. And this is how we can move beyond the traditional categorical industrial frameworks for industrial classification, as it can be SIC code, as far as these frameworks allows for companies to choose different categories that they believe they're in, but they are very rigid and doesn't allow for this interdisciplinary, if that makes sense, approach to new economies or new practices or new sectors like what we are doing with net zero. And so what have we learned about this data? Well, I have extracted 3 main findings. There's way more that we could talk about, but I just want to show you these 3 main things. First, we can see a representation of the energy transition in the data. We see that the sector of renewables grew by 241%. Energy cooperatives grew by 219%, which is very curious, I believe, because at the end of the day, this sector of energy cooperatives is showing that inhabitants people are trying to produce energy in collective cooperative ways, which is something that it is quite a new trend. It is something quite new and interesting, and that can give us a lot of insight in social practice around energy. And lastly, I want to highlight that the sector of electric vehicles grew by 458% in the last 9 years, which is a massive growth that is directly related to the political decision of banning petrol and diesel cars. So we can see this relationship between these industrial sectors and the political decisions that have been made to create a carbon neutral UK. But it also tells us other things about the geography and the spatial patterns of this of the net zero economy. We can see, for example, that agri-tech is an emerging sector that is mostly rural, in contrast to other emerging economies that are mostly based in urban areas. We have prepared a little map for you to show you this situation. Here we go. So this is a map that represents the local authorities in the UK and the number of agri-tech companies located within each of them. So we can see how the mostly urban area that we are used to see the biggest concentrations of companies in this kind of area that I'm following with the mouse at the moment. And we can see that the agri-tech sector is following the complete opposite pattern. We see loads of concentrations of companies in rural areas in Wales. We see that Cosworth is one of the local authorities with the highest concentration of agri-tech companies, and also South Cambridgeshire. But basically it's telling us that this industry, the agri-tech industry, is not is following a different pattern than many other emerging economies. And then lastly, let's get back to, there we go. Lastly, I want to show you that we have found that there's new clusters of activities directly related to net zero. So let's talk a little bit more about these maps. The map on the left represents the percentage of companies that work in net zero in relation to the total number of companies in that local authority. That means that we are seeing the prevalence of the net zero economy within those within local authorities. And basically what we can see again is that it is pretty rural. The net zero economy is prevalent in mostly rural areas, which is a very interesting finding. And then the map on the right basically reinforces this conclusion, as far as it shows statistically significant hotspots of net zero activity. This means that the concentration of net zero companies is statistically significant. And we can see how Scotland and local authorities in Scotland have a very high concentration of net zero companies, same as companies in Cornwall and the whole southwest area of the UK. But basically, this is giving us a very interesting insight of what are the spatial patterns of the net zero economy in the UK. And to finish with, I just want to talk a little bit about the impact of this data. Basically, this information is contributing to, is helping planners, investors, and public institutions to implement the strategies to cut the UK's carbon footprint. If these planners and public institutions know what are the capabilities of the UK market towards with regards to net zero, then they will be able to implement the strategies that fit the capabilities of the UK at the moment. Also, we can see the development of new regional clusters of activity, which can be a great opportunity for rural areas, as we have just mentioned, to just like engage with a new emerging economy and become significant within that emerging economy. And lastly, it allows for the integration of industries with completely different characteristics into the analysis of economic practices and trends, which is something that we couldn't do before on a systematic manner and with a proven method. So here I want to say thank you for the time you invested in listening to this presentation. I hope that you found our net zero data interesting, and I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you very much.